The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. Now, we'd love to have you out for next show, but for now, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy this clip. Let's finish up with definitely talking about one of the most underrated games in all of Week 1 for our best versus the rest segment, where we take an SEC out of opponent game and break it down, kind of give you a short little intro into the SEC out of opponent game, because I'm pretty sure we all have an opinion and have lots to talk about LSU coming into this season. But UCLA, especially if you're an SEC fan, it's not a team that you're going to know the most about. But you look at some of the games in Week 1, obviously jumps out at you. Miami, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, obviously, Wisconsin, Penn State, tons of good games Week 1. But this LSU versus UCLA game, a game where LSU goes out west to take on UCLA in Pasadena, is a very interesting one, and I think that it's just got even more hype and everything around it ever since the lines have came out, where LSU only opens up as less than a field goal underdog to UCLA. Now, I think LSU talent-wise is the better team in this situation than UCLA, but talent doesn't always mean everything. Coaching means something, the game plan that you put together, and there's lots to talk about in this game and reasons why this game is as low as it is. And I just want to talk about first, before we start talking about LSU really in this game, I really just want to talk about UCLA. I just want to point out the last time, not to say that this has anything to do with this game, but the last time, at least from my recent memory, the last time an SEC opponent went to UCLA to play kind of one of these bigger early week out of conference opponent games, whatever you want to call it, it was Texas A&M versus UCLA, and this was when kind of the legend of Josh Rosen was born. When UCLA comes back against Texas A&M and has a huge win, I remember that game just watching the highlights. I didn't watch it live, but that was a game that you definitely saw highlights of for a long, long time, and that's kind of what rose Josh Rosen's draft stock or whatever, and ultimately got him taken in the top, 15? He went like 11 or something, 12 to the Cardinals. I can't remember exactly, and now you have no clue whereabouts he is. I think he's on the Buccaneers or something as like their third or fourth string quarterback. But UCLA last season with 3-4 in the Pac-12 South, they finished 5th overall in the Pac-12 South, and the Pac-12 is a very interesting, especially as SEC fans, our opinion of the Pac-12 definitely differs from what our opinion of the SEC is, because as soon as you hear Pac-12, you just think Oregon, Washington, and that's usually where your mind, Oregon, Washington, USC, that's usually where your mind goes to, and you usually have a couple other competitive teams in there, but that kind of changes over year. You don't think off the bat that they're as good as the SEC, but I tell you that this UCLA team, even though they did go 3-4, there's still lots to look forward to and lots of experience returning on this UCLA team. This team can definitely score, and I think that that is definitely going to be a big key and highlight for this game, is how LSU's defense will be able to do against UCLA's offense, because UCLA's lowest scoring game, they put up 25 points, and that was a win against ASU last season. They were putting up consistently 30-plus points, 38 points, 40-plus points in each and every game, and I think that that's something that definitely has to be circled for LSU if they want to be able to come out of Pasadena with a win in this game. Tons of experience. I've already talked about it, but tons of experience coming back for UCLA this season. I think UCLA is returning tons of talent, and I'm going to get into that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is set to be the starter quarterback for the Bruins this season, obviously. Started for most of the games last season, had a really good season. He's kind of a dual threat guy. I like him in the rushing game, and he's always really good passing as well. Their leading receiver returns in Greg Dulcich. I got to get that name right because it looks like Dulcich. I don't need to go into too much about his name, but Dulcich, leading receiver, he's a tight end for UCLA, comes back this season. And then Kyle Phillips is also coming back, their leading pass catcher in the receiving core, the wide receivers. So I think tons of talent returns for Thompson-Robinson in the receiving game. I think at the running back game, I think you got tons of talent coming back there, and a very interesting situation because, yes, your leading rusher Felton does go out of UCLA, but you do have Brown returning, and then you also have an intriguing transfer from Michigan, Zach Charbonnet, which is a guy that I actually watched a lot because even though I'm a big SEC fan, and if you've watched this channel for a while, you know my partner on this channel, Bernie, is a big Michigan fan. And I always love tuning into Michigan games and just see what's going on there. Zach Charbonnet was the guy that you heard his name a lot. He is coming back home to California, where he is from, to play for UCLA. And I think that he will actually be a huge success piece in this UCLA rushing game this season. Very excited to see what he does at UCLA. all 5 starters on the O-line return for UCLA this season, which returning experience for the O-line is a huge, huge piece, especially for the 12th best rushing game in all of college football this season, which UCLA did have last season, and much of that is attributed and credited to this UCLA offensive line. So getting all 5 of those guys back is definitely going to help Charbonnet and Brown have a really, really successful rushing game this season, and also obviously help Thompson Robinson in the passing game when you can have guys protect like that, have guys that you worked with before. So lots to look forward to on this UCLA offense. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, they also return tons of talent. They obviously lose one of their star players. They lose Odigizua to the Cowboys. He goes off to the NFL draft, obviously. But the pass rush effectiveness, I still think, is here for UCLA. You look at guys like Johnson, Calvert, Agood, Jackson, Ogbania. Sorry, these names are tough to pronounce sometimes. All of these guys are being present this season for the UCLA Bruins, and in a team that had one of the most successful pass rushes in all of the Pac-12 last season, especially. I think that this team led the Pac-12 in sacks. Having those guys back is going to be absolutely key for getting after the quarterback this season. And I even look at the secondary. The secondary, I think, is going to be the most successful piece for UCLA this season on the defensive side of the ball. You look at Blaylock and you look at Knight to lead this secondary. Overall, the secondary last season had a late resurgence in picking up 9 interceptions, 8 interceptions in the last 4 games, I'm pretty sure. I think that the secondary, especially you look at the safety position, again, I said Blaylock and Knight is going to be kind of your strength of this UCLA defense this season. So lots to look forward to on both sides of the ball, lots of returning talent. Yes, you do lose some guys, especially the running back position. Obviously, I said it, Felton, but you still return most of your talent. And I think that UCLA has a really, really strong core of what their offense and defense is going to be next season. So now let's talk about LSU a bit and talk about kind of the keys for LSU to win this game. We don't know the starting quarterback for LSU. I think that is definitely one of the more intriguing quarterback battles of all of college football going into next season. You can look at Max Johnson versus Miles Brennan. Very, very intriguing there. I think either guy should be successful in this game, and whoever they go in at quarterback, I think is going to play really, really well for LSU. You look at Davis Price at the running back position. You look at like Booty at the wide receiver position, obviously their main guy. How is LSU going to be able, and what is my keys to success for LSU this season and really in this game to come out of Pasadena with a win? Because I'm not saying that LSU is going to be out-talented in this game, but you do traveling on the road and scoring on the road is always a tough task, and it's the first week of the season. I'm not saying that this is some mid-season form for LSU, especially coming off of how LSU did last season. Are we expecting LSU to just go back to some form of 2019? Not to say that they're going to be as successful then, but just coaching-wise and game plan-wise, are they just going to be able to be more fluent and everything like that? Or should we expect some 2020 LSU team to show up in this game? So I'm going to go through some of my keys for the game for LSU. I'm looking at Gay, I'm looking at Farrell, I'm looking at Logan, and I'm looking at Anthony to be able to slow down the run game. Again, I said it, with 5 returning starters in the 12th best rushing offense in all of the country last season, you're going to have to slow this running game down in some sort. I think that relying on the passing game, if you can get UCLA to really, really target the passing game, I think that LSU definitely has the best cornerback duo, one of the best quarterback duos in all of the country, of course. I'm talking Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley. So if you could really force the passing game onto UCLA, I think that will be a huge win. Spy and contain Thompson Robinson because I think he is a dual threat quarterback. He rushed for over 100 yards in a couple games last season, or I know he definitely did in the Colorado game last season. So you don't want him rushing for extra yards. Contain him. Again, make him pass. Don't make this game be won for UCLA with the ground game, whether that be from the quarterback position or whether that be from the running back position. The O has to score on the road, and I think that is an obvious thing. Week 1, you're traveling far away. Like, this isn't just some short travel to Alabama. Yes, I do think that going to Alabama is going to be much harsher of an environment to play in, but the drive is way shorter, and you're going to be having to take a plane, playing in a completely different climate, a completely different atmosphere, all those kinds of things. When you go out west, your sleep schedule, everything like that, you're going 3 hours behind. Lots of things to take in and traveling on the road to Pasadena. Kind of switches things up a bit, so that's going to be interesting. And I think that LSU definitely has to be able to score on the road. I'm looking at least 35 plus points on the board for LSU to be able to win this game, which I think is in reach no matter who is at quarterback, whether that is Max Johnson or whether that is Miles Brennan, I think that is definitely in reach. But you got to score 35 plus, in my opinion. My last thing pretty much is you got to pick apart the corners. The safety is going to be their strong suit, so really look to pick apart the corners if you want to get a passing game going. I think that the rushing game is going to be a bit harder getting it going with Davis Price, especially with the big defensive front and the returning experience to this defensive front with UCLA and every guy that they have. So really try to pick apart these corners, try to get yourselves in man coverage situations, and that's when you see guys like Booty have really big games, and I think that he's going to be a guy that definitely needs to be targeted in this game for LSU. My final score prediction for this game, so far in all of my score predictions games for these best versus the rest segments, I've taken the SEC team in every single game except the Auburn-Penn State one. Or no, that's a lie. I took Texas in the Texas-Arkansas one. I took Penn State in the Penn State-Auburn one. I've taken Alabama over Miami. I've taken Ole Miss over LSU. I've taken Georgia over Clemson, which was definitely a big one. And in this one, right now, I think LSU should still win this game. Again, I think that this is going to be a toss-up in a very close and interesting game. My final score prediction, I have a high-scoring one, 42-38 for LSU. Again, LSU comes in less than a field goal favorite in this game. Week 1 in Pasadena, but I still think LSU should be able to score the ball no matter who they have at quarterback, and they are going to get scored on. I do think that this UCLA offense is going to put up some points against LSU, but overall, I do have LSU coming out of this game with a win in a very, very close, down-to-the-wire offensive shootout game in Pasadena.